I'm here to show off some cool stuff today.
Welcome!
I don't really have an official name for this segment, but I guess you could call this cool new stuff I have. But this is kind of the first of introducing kind of stuff I just kind of bought, and I don't really spend much money on myself as far as like collectibles or whatever. But these are some cool new things I have, gotten my hands on. Starting off, we're just going to start with something spooky, of course. So recently, I actually went to see R.L. Stein in Baltimore, and he was doing a thing promoting his new book he did called House of Shivers. It's like a new series of his, like Fear Street or Goosebumps, and it's called Scariest Book Ever. And actually, we got there pretty early, so it was a lot of waiting around. So, I mean, when I got a copy of the book, it was about a week before it was going to be released. But got a copy of the book, and as you see my bookmark, I already made quite the dent in the book while we were waiting to go, like, see him live. But most of the time, most of his show, like, he just kind of came out and he read some short type stories. He like read this one short story that he had written, and mostly just talked about like supernatural stuff, like if we've had any encounters, if anybody in the audience ever had encounters with ghosts or anything like that. But it was a neat little thing. It wasn't a very long thing. Obviously, when an author is just going to come to do like a reading, it's usually close to an hour, and I honestly don't even think it was even an hour long. But it was just a fun thing, just cool to see R.L. Stein in the flesh, and being a huge Goosebumps fan growing up, like he was basically like my idol growing up. Like I loved all the Goosebumps books, and my wife and I have been slowly collecting the original Goosebumps series, like as we've gone along and go to like antique shops or like stuff that places that just sell older things. And yeah, like I'm sure we could just go online and buy the whole collection, but there's no fun in that. It's the thrill of the hunt. So, but yeah, we got this. We have two copies actually. We both got a copy, my wife and I. But I would just say this reminds me a lot of Welcome to Dead House, which was, I believe, the very first Goosebumps book. And yeah, it's basically just this, family that moves into a new home that's kind of haunted. And yeah, I mean, I don't remember much else. It was just kind of setting it up, but at least so far, it reminded me a lot of Welcome to Dead House, and R.L. Stein's written a lot of books. So some of his ideas could probably run together at a certain point, but yeah, I mean, that's not a bad thing. I mean, the dude knows what he is, and the dude knows how to write a scary book, or, at least scary to children. And, there's a lot to love about him. So yeah, I got that. So next up, I haven't shown this off yet, and I haven't hung it up yet, but unfortunately, the wrestler known as Bray Wyatt, his real name is Wyndham Rotunda, passed away very recently at the age of 36, and kind of sucks that he was that young. I mean, he's like 4 years older than me. He died of a heart attack, and he was a wrestler that he had kind of like a health issue, and he was away from wrestling for a little bit, and he had like just made his return not long before that happened. And then just out of nowhere, it was a complete shock to the wrestling world, him passing away. And like, I mean, I'm not like, celebrity deaths don't really affect me all that much, but that was the one that really affected me, probably because he was practically my favorite wrestler as of recent, and who was still active. But as a memento to Bray Wyatt or Wyndham Rotunda, to me this was a plaque that kind of pays homage to what I consider his magnum opus for a wrestling match. I'll get into that in a little bit, but that is known as the Firefly Funhouse match, where his character of The Fiend took on John Cena at WrestleMania 36. And now, the reason I call this his magnum opus is because it is borderline just John Cena in a psychological horror film. There's not a whole lot of wrestling in this match. I mean, you basically put quotations around match, and yeah, it is just like 15 minutes of John Cena going through this fever dream with The Fiend and Bray Wyatt's like creepy Mr. Rogers type character, and John Cena being in this place called the Firefly Funhouse. And basically, I mean, even if you're not a big wrestling fan, I mean, I did a video on like 5 spooky or horror wrestling matches that are worth your time. And I rank this as my highest, pretty much as my highest one to check out, because even if you aren't a wrestling fan, like this is it, you just basically just watch John Cena like in a horror film, and it's awesome. And I have yet to see something that is as unique as this match, especially, I mean, this is something I thought transcended wrestling. And now a lot of people, it's either a very love or hate type thing. Like some people really don't like this match because there is no wrestling in it. It's mostly just story and, just these segments. But I love this, and yeah, I mean, once Bray Wyatt passed away, I mean, the WWE shop was selling a bunch of merchandise of his, and they do have plaques for sale for a lot of people, but I saw that this was for sale, and I just wanted, as a memento to Bray Wyatt for what he did for the wrestling world. And yeah, I can't wait to hang this up. I mean, I kept it in the plastic and it's pretty crisp looking, so I don't want to mess with it too much before hanging it up. But yeah, rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. And yeah, I mean, if there's one match he's going to be remembered for, I mean, he had several different characters and gimmicks that were really good, but I think this is going to be the one that most people are. This is going to be his go-to match, and not only that, like John Cena, I'm shocked that they did anything like this, because you would not thought someone like a company like WWE would put something on this weird. I mean, it is basically like if a wrestling did a David Lynch film. Like that's the closest thing you could probably compare it to. But yeah, I just wanted to show that off, and I love the way this looks. And yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it was really cool. I do have a Fiend figure. I showed off in another video, but that was before Bray Wyatt had passed. So, I think this is a good reminder to, the wrestling world of, the impact that Bray Wyatt had on it. So, yeah, I'm stoked on this. So I'm excited to hang it up. Next cool thing I have is actually a shirt. And I'm a huge fan of this YouTube channel. If you are a metalhead, pretty much they're not super fancy about their presentation, but they just have awesome videos just talking about metal. And that is the channel Thralls of Metal. And I do have their older shirt design, but they just came out with this new shirt design of this oozy green color with the skull. I think it's awesome. And to me, it's just, if you love metal, definitely check out their channel. I think they're great. I mean, it provides me with a lot of entertainment, honestly. When I never know what to watch, they almost upload videos like at least 5 out of the 7 days every week. But yeah, they're awesome. Moving on, I'll just show off these. Now, speaking of metal, I am a big metal head. I do jam a lot of metal as of probably the last year or 2 years. I've been jamming a lot of metal. That's really my go-to genre right now. But I of course got the new Cannibal Corpse record. This is their 16th album, if you can believe it, Chaos Horrific. And this is a fun album. I mean, if you are a little unaware of the metal world or death metal, I mean, Cannibal Corpse is basically if you wanted to check out Cannibal Corpse and you're like, what album should I listen to? Honestly, any of them are fine because they're all solid releases. Some obviously better than others. I mean, it's very recent since this album came out, and I've listened to it a few times. I really dig it. It's very heavy. It has a very beefy tone guitar-wise, and I like how in some metal music it can be overstimulating or very jarring to listen to, some guitar solos or riffs where it's just a lot of noodling on the higher end of the guitar. But on this album, there's a whole lot of lower end stuff. Like instead of being like up here doing, ridiculous noodling on the guitar, it's just more of a lot of like crunchy riffs. And I kind of dig that about this record. It's a lot darker sounding. The last song on the album, called Drain You Empty, is like the most doom metal Cannibal Corpse has probably ever been. And I mean, that's not to say that they don't have a very familiar Cannibal Corpse sound on this record. It's just this band is always evolving, but keeping their core sound and still making it fresh sounding. And I love that about Cannibal Corpse as a band. And this is no exception. This is a great album. I guess I'll show some of the artwork because I think some of the artwork is kind of too cool not to show off. It is gory though, so for all the kiddies out there who don't like gore, don't watch this part of the video. But I mean, this is the inside, just a whole lot of zombies and carnage and everything. But I mean, the same guy who does all their artwork, Vincent Locke, of course, did this one. I would just say my only complaint about the general, I would just say the only general thing I would complain about the artwork is, I mean, right now in this lighting, it looks just completely perfect. But if you're looking at it not in like a direct sense of light, it looks a bit dark, like contrast wise. So I would just say if they did put the brightness up a little bit, I think the artwork would have popped a lot more. But I'm sure I'm going to get sacrificed to, I don't know, the metal gods for saying that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, it just seems a little dark on the artwork. And yeah, I mean, because even here, it's funny. I feel like the video actually does this more justice than me just looking at it right now, because it just seems a bit dark. But yeah, there's like this like barbarian dude, holding someone's head. It's pretty awesome. There's this lady with toes. It's like she's being served up as a dish. I'm probably gonna get demonetized for this video for its artwork. There's a naked person on this next one, so I'm not gonna show that. There's a mostly naked person here, but yeah, very bloody, and this is my type of thing. You got a girl on here who's just ready to murder her next victim. Pretty awesome. Yeah, this reminds me very much of Lucio Fulci, like City of the Living Dead or The Beyond. Very, very Fulci looking thing. There's this weird looking like dead dude here. I don't know, the artwork's just awesome. And that's kind of the reason why I still enjoy buying physical media, because it's just the experience of like, you feel like you actually bought something and you can kind of appreciate the product more. But I mean, I'm not saying I don't use streaming services. Obviously I do, with watching movies, TV shows, and listening to music. But if it's something I know I'm going to enjoy, I still do buy like the physical media. And I'm glad I bought this. And because I bought this new one, I was like, I wonder if I can find my favorite album of Cannibal Corpse, on CD for sale. And I did, and that is The Bleeding, and that's from the 90s. And this was their fourth record. And most death metal fans would tell you that this is among their best, and I would agree with that. And I would say if you've never really listened to death metal and you want a good place to start, check this out, because while death metal is very jarring for people who are outsiders of that, this is something I think is the most accessible form of death metal, because it does have like, actual like song structures, like almost verses, a chorus type thing. And the riffs are very catchy and they kind of stick in your head. I mean, there's a lot of memorable songs on this album, and I would definitely say check this one out. This was before they had Corpse Grinder as their singer, but this is among some of the best music they've written. And yeah, at least, yeah, instrumental wise, this is among some of the best they've ever done, in my opinion. But I mean, you ask any Cannibal Corpse fan, they're going to give you a different album that they say is their number one, because I mean, it's all good. I mean, and you can't say that about a whole lot of bands. Usually you'll be like, oh, all their records are good, but skip that one. That one sucks. And I think that most bands are kind of are given a pass for at least one bad record. But Cannibal Corpse, they're all solid. I mean, they know what they are and they stick to it and they try to grow from it. But yeah, moving on from kind of the metal thing, the last thing I want to show off is a DVD, and that is, it's a show. It's like this small independent filmmaker. He has a YouTube channel, but his name's Rob McCallum, I believe is his name. But I bought the second season of the show called Action Figure Adventure. It is a super nerd show, and it's very niche, but if you just like nerdy stuff, if you're a super nerd like me, you may enjoy this show. Season 1 is for free to watch on Amazon Prime at least. And these guys, it has this guy named Jay and then the filmmaker Rob. They basically travel around. They travel around basically just trying to find rare toys to buy within like their budget. And then what they're going to do is they are going to auction these toys off and basically try to raise money for a children's hospital. So it takes something that is extremely nerdy but tries to do something good out of it. And that's what I like about this show. And I have not watched season 2. And I mean, I could have bought the second season on Amazon Prime, but I was like, you know what, if I have to buy it, I might as well just buy a copy of the DVD. And that's what I did. But yeah, Rob McCallum and Jay did a documentary, a little, probably like maybe seven years ago, called Nintendo Quest. And that was where him and Jay were kind of traveling around trying to buy a copy of every Nintendo Entertainment System game that ever existed. And like, that was just their goal. They were trying to do that within a month span of time. And that's definitely a very flawed documentary. There's just a lot of like, they didn't really say what was in Jay's budget when he was buying games, but they were just traveling around, and it was a neat little thing to check out for sure. But yeah, the structure of the documentary wasn't paced very well, and I mean, Jay didn't even end up doing the thing within a month. It was like actually a few months like after their initial start that he finally was able to obtain enough money, I guess, to buy this one really rare Nintendo game that there was a very small number like made of the game. I think it was called Stadium Events. It was like the most rare Nintendo Entertainment System game. But yeah, it was like a number of months that went by and he finally obtained all the games. But what failed in Nintendo Quest as a documentary, I feel like worked when they went to make the first season of Action Figure Adventure, because they split it up into episodes and made a season-long TV show out of it. And I believe this season, I don't know about season 1, but season 2, I believe, was crowdfunded for them to do a season 2. And I'm excited to get into this. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same type of thing where they're trying to hunt down these rare action figures and toys to auction off to raise money for charity. But that was what season 1 was all about. And you got to know a lot of history behind like action figures and what toys mean to people, even from as a small child to growing up as an adult. Like what the meaning of it kind of changes, where it's like you just wanted to play with it and use your imagination as a kid, and as an adult you buy it kind of as like a memento to that, and kind of it gives you that kid feeling, but you're not necessarily playing with the toy, but just having it on display is another thing. And just, it's all about collectors and action figures, and they go to a lot of different toy stores. And like, while I'm not a ginormous, like I'm not really a toy collector and stuff, I just really like stuff like that, and just hearing about it, and just hearing other people's passion about something is always really enjoyable, and how like, they just don't have shame in that, and especially just showing that off. And so I'm excited to get into season 2 of this show, and I'll probably fly through it in no time. I mean, I basically like, I flew through season 1 pretty quickly, and I just rewatched season 1, so I'm excited to get into this one. And I mean, I'll just wrap it up there, honestly. That was all my cool stuff I wanted to show off. it was a bit of a mixed bag with all this different stuff. He had some metal, he had a spooky book, he had the Firefly Funhouse plaque, and two Cannibal Corpse records. But there was a giant truck that just drove by outside. But I'll just wrap it up there. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you made it to the end, what's wrong with you? But at the same time, thank you. And give me a thumbs up on the video. It's greatly appreciated. And if there's anything you want to see me talk about on the channel, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in a future video. Bye.